is Tuesday morning. Gabe DeArmond here with you on Tiger Tuesday Recruiting, presented by Brandon Barnes and USA Mortgage. Brandon Barnes, the former Mizzou football player, safety and linebacker. Last week I credited him with an interception against Texas Tech in 2003. He was quick to remind me he had 2 interceptions in that game. He also forced a fumble. So kudos to Brandon for the glory days back in 2003. He is now with USA Mortgage, and he's the guy you need to hit up if you've got any mortgage needs. Low rates, great products, better service. Apply now at showmemortgages.com, whether it's a new house, a refi. I'm sure there are other things you can do with mortgages, but those are the 2 I know. So hit Brandon up for those. You see the office number there, 573-818-2772. Cell number is 573-590-0001. You can get him online. You can get him by email, but hit Brandon Barnes up for any of your mortgage needs, and hit Sean Williams up for your recruiting needs. That's what I do. Sean's on the screen now. You can see him. There he is. I just there'll be things that happen in recruiting. I'm like, hey, I don't know who this guy is. What's up, Sean? And he tells me, and then I sound like I know what I'm talking about. So we appreciate that. But this show, every week, we're just going to spend 20, 30 minutes talking about Mizzou recruiting. We're starting a little early because it's the time of year where our schedules change every day, and sometimes we have to do things we didn't know we were going to do. So we move around a little bit. Sean, you were in St. Louis last weekend, checking out some various people. Here's where I want to start the show. Marquis Gracial is, I think, committed to Missouri. Is that right?
I mean, the conversation definitely seems to tend to agree with that. Just talking to him and everything, he's going to take other visits. He's already taken other visits. He's going to go back to Alabama for an official. He was pretty upfront about that. He's going to go visit Oregon for an official too. But I kind of asked him, hey, with these visits, is it kind of more obviously enjoying the recruiting process, making sure you made the right decision? His response to that was, hey, I felt like I already made the right decision. So, that kind of makes me think that it's going to take a lot to sway him from his Missouri commitment. But, I mean, Alabama's kind of a team to probably keep an eye on. I mean, he went down there in late July, and he's going to go back for an official visit there. So, seems like they really want him. Don't know if they'll, fill up the class before, he's going to make a decision or what. But, we'll see what happens with that. But, just kind of asked him about those other visits. He said, hey, look, I think I've already made the right decision. And, he had obviously glowing things to say about Missouri, and that's why he committed there early. So I think it'd take a lot to sway, but I think Alabama's kind of the team to watch. I don't really see him going to Oregon, too far away from home. I know his family, wanting his family to watch him play is a big thing for him. Obviously, he can do that very easily at Missouri. Alabama's a little bit more of a haul, but it's not Oregon,
Right.
So
right.
I think Alabama's going to be kind of the team to watch here going forward, but I think it's going to take a lot to sway him away from that Missouri commitment, though.
Yeah, my read on Oregon and Tennessee was, I don't know, it sounds good to have some other schools in there you're going to talk about visiting. I'll be surprised if those visits actually end up happening, and I think we see that a lot. We'll get to that in a minute, but just as far as, and look, it's a jamboree. I know you're not necessarily seeing the kid play a game, but he was playing some tight end. It kind of brought back memories for some people on our board of watching Sheldon Richardson. I covered one of his games, and he was returning kickoffs at, right. 294 pounds. The kid, there's a reason Alabama wants the kid. I mean, this guy, if he was from Texas or Florida, he's a kid that I feel like might be a lot more highly rated and nationally recruited.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, kind of the first thing I noticed about Marquis when I got there, I mean, he's listed at 295. I mean, he carries that weight well. It's not a sloppy 295. I mean, I wouldn't think he was 295, to be honest with you. I mean, he's just a really well-built kid. A lot of upper body strength there. And he showed some explosiveness in some of those plays on D tackle. I mean, he caused a fumble. He was in the backfield a lot. I think he knocked the quarterback back about 3 yards on one play. I don't know if you're supposed to do that in a jamboree or scrimmage, but he did it anyway. So he kind of showed off a little bit of flashes of that explosion and strength. I mean, he's, his coach said, hey, we're going to line him up at tight end. He can beat people with his feet. But he was in there blocking for the most part, running plays. But still, it's kind of impressive to see that. I mean, in warm ups, he's lining up at wide receiver, going out for routes, 20 yards deep. So I mean, it's impressive to see that from a guy his size to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
really impressed with what I saw. Even though it was disclaimer, jamboree, scrimmage type stuff, but.
So we were talking about, visits that kind of end up not materializing. And, there was a time in the spring where there were a lot of tweets about, hey, Isaac Thompson's going to visit here and he's going to visit there and he's going to do all this. And now he's going to visit Missouri 6 times during the season. I mean, it would be hard to be any more in on a commitment than Isaac Thompson seemed to be when you talked to him on Saturday morning.
Right. I think just the one team that kind of emerged from all that talk in the spring was UCF. Obviously, David Gibbs, former Missouri DB coach, is down there. Obviously, they got a close relationship. He told me they still talk. He talked some to Gus Malzahn a little bit, but he didn't give any indication that UCF's a big threat or anything like that. Obviously, he went down there for the official this summer just to check it out. But yeah, I was like, hey, how many times you visit Missouri? 4 times this summer. So, he was down there most recently in July with, Ryan Wingo. And, I said, hey, how many times you coming back to Missouri? I am going to be there for all the home games. So, I mean, he's very much locked in. I don't see UCF being a threat at all to really flip him.
Mm-hmm. Then the third guy you saw this weekend was one of Thompson's teammates, Ryan Wingo. And look, I know you haven't followed recruiting in this state quite as long as I have, but I assume there just is eternally going to be a Wingo that is being recruited. I mean, it started with Ronnie, and then the middle Wingo's name is slipping my mind, but he was at Missouri, and now there's Raymond Wingo, I believe, was the middle one, and now there's Ryan Wingo. And I know we don't have 2024 rankings out. Some do, and he's like a national top 10 guy. Now, that can change a lot. We got 2.5, 3 years. I see a lot of kids that start out as top 10 guys. All of a sudden, there are 300 guys people never knew about that tend to pass them. But he is going to be a high level kid, and seems to be fairly enamored with what Drinkwitz is doing right now.
Yeah, Ryan didn't work out. He was just working out during the scrimmage. He didn't really participate, so I didn't really get to see him with pads on, running routes or anything like that. But did just catch up with him beforehand, and he kind of said, Missouri's, my top school right now. Obviously, very early in the process, and Missouri's the school he's most familiar with. He's went up there a couple times this summer. He camped there the first time, and then he went back up there in July with Isaac Thompson. Really likes. Wide receivers coach Bush Hamden's really tight with him, really tight with Eli Drinkwitz. Really likes the way Bush Hamden coaches whenever he was there at camp, and how he kind of taught him different things, and just film reviews and stuff like that. So I think those 2 visits to Missouri really impressed him. Obviously, he says it feels like home. And with Isaac staying there and signing the class, he obviously knows some other St. Louis kids that are there that are already there. I think it's shaping up well for Missouri. I mean, they're already in very well with, like you said, it's probably going to be one of the top prospects in the 2024 class.
Yeah, and hey, if Missouri can offer 2026 kids, then we can't talk about the 24 kids being young, right?
Right. Yeah, we're waiting for those 2026 rankings to drop anytime.
Yeah,
anytime.
But like a young kid, coming saying, "Hey, such and such is my top school," always reminds me. Like one of my favorite recruiting stories, and this would have had to be back in I don't know, 07, 08. I don't know exactly what year the kid came out, but Sergio Kindle was like one of the top 10 prospects in America, right, as a junior in high school. And it was like February of his junior year. I got him on the phone because Missouri had offered, and he was from Texas, and he just said in the interview, yeah, Missouri's my favorite school. I'm like, oh, sweet. Well, we got a story here, right? Like top 10 kid from Texas, and Mizzou is his favorite school. And that was February of his junior year. Legitimately never talked to the kid again. The reason Missouri was his favorite school was because he liked using Chase Daniel and Jeremy Maclin on whatever video game, college football video game he was playing. He thought that was cool, and they were real good then, so that was his favorite school that night. I legitimately never one time talked to the kid again. He committed to Texas in May of his junior year, and went on. But so point is, things can change a little bit,
Right.
And this is different. He's a St. Louis kid, but let's not. I'm not going to start hyping up, top 10 lists of 24 kids too early.
Yeah, and I think going back to that, obviously, it seems like that kid was probably playing some NCAA football 2007 or whatever.
You're right. Yeah, right about that. Yeah. EA Sports, before it got outlawed and all that. So,
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, just like I said, just kind of asking him. He mentioned a couple other schools he's kind of talking to, but I mean, he's really just taking this thing slow. I mean, Missouri, I think, is the only place he's really visited so far. So, he's taking things slow. He's obviously very familiar with Missouri, and he's going to take visits to other places. And look, there's going to be a lot of other schools that offer him. So things are definitely going to change down the road for him.
Right. And hey, I do see your questions, guys, and we're going to get to those. We're kind of saving those for the back half of this show. We want to get to some other things that we've got to talk about, but appreciate you guys who are watching live. And if you've got questions or comments, feel free to drop them in, and we will get to them here in just a couple minutes. So you were on the road last weekend. We're actually, the rest of us are planning to hit the road this weekend. Mitchell Forty's going to be up in North Kansas City, where I believe that would be Dominique Orange and Edric Hill, two highly rated in-state offensive linemen. Hoping to send Joel Lorenzi over to Lee Summit to check out Max Wisner, and I am going to make a call today or tomorrow to see if it is worth the time to drive over to CBC and watch East St. Louis play on Friday night. And some will say, well, of course it's worth the time. Well, it is worth the time if I can speak with Luther Burden. If I can't speak with him, hey guys, high school football, if that's your thing, cool. But he's really good. I don't need to drive 4 hours to validate the fact that he's really good. I'd like to be able to talk to him. So if that happens, we're planning to be at 3 games this week.
Yeah, it's good. You got to talk to his people and to his people. It's understandable. Yeah, and another guy we haven't mentioned. I don't know if you're going to mention him. That I saw was Marv Burks out of Carver Ritter, 2023 safety. First thing I noticed of him, I mean, he's tall, he's athletic, looks like a Power 5 guy, wearing some Missouri gloves. He obviously he spent a couple days up there at Missouri this summer. He was up there for the 7-on-7 tournament. He also hung out the day before at Missouri, really likes it. So I think he mentioned Arkansas is another place he wants to go check out, but he said Missouri really feels like home to him. So that's another, I mean, he's a 4-star kid. Missouri's made a really good impression on him early on. Really liked what I saw with him. He didn't play a lot of snaps on defense at the Jamboree, but I mean, he was in on like 3 tackles. He caused a fumble. Really instinctual kid when it comes to, just being a safety, being a kind of a ball hawk out there in the defensive secondary. He obviously played a few snaps at wide receiver too and had a really nice, impressive catch over the middle and took about 2 people to bring him down. So he's a super athletic kid. Really likes Missouri early on. So that's another top-tier kid in St. Louis that Missouri's made a good impression on early on. So.
Yeah, he was one of the kids that jumped out when we were at Missouri 7-on-7 thing. I think it was late July. I mean, he played both ways, and he's just. I always say I'm not a scout, so if you're a D1 player, I should be able to walk into a 7-on-7 thing with 200 kids and say, oh, hang on, that kid looks a little bit different.
Right.
Marvin Burks looks a little bit different. So speaking of in-state safeties, once again, want to take a quick break to remind you that this show is brought to you by Brandon Barnes and USA Mortgage. Brandon Barnes, a former safety and linebacker at the University of Missouri, now with USA Mortgage. He is your local mortgage banker. There are the phone numbers, the email address, the website address. You can get in touch with Brandon. He's got low rates. He's got great products. He is on our message board fairly regularly. So he likes to talk football with Mizzou fans. Now, I'm sure he would be willing to talk to some Mizzou football with you if you call up and give him a shot to earn your business at showmemortgages.com. Check out Brandon online, and certainly would appreciate that. Appreciate him for being a part of what we're doing this year and being able to bring these daily shows to you guys. One more thing, Sean, we'll get to the questions here in a minute, but one more guy that started his season last week as far as Missouri recruiting is concerned is Sam Horn. I think the final total was 405 yards, accounted for 5 touchdowns, had a couple turnovers, but his Collins Hill team had a big win to start the season that was, I don't know if it was regionally or nationally televised, but I do know there were some people, hey, we just lost Sean. He has turned into a Skype logo, so I'm going to hit Sean back. Oh, there, I hear him. Is he back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. There you are.
I was getting a call, man.
Oh, so no worries. No worries. Got to Yeah, you got to do that airplane mode sometimes. But then I guess you couldn't be on Skype. But no, so Sam Horn with the big start to the season, 400 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns, and that's kind of what you would expect out of I got a text message Saturday morning said, "Hey man, I can tell you this, Sam Horn's good." I'm like, "Well, he's a 4-star top 100 player. I would certainly hope he's good."
Yeah. I mean, kind of performance you would expect. Obviously, a little bit of a bigger stage. He's playing in the Mercedes-Benz Dome down there in Atlanta. I think they had the Corky Co Classic, which is always huge in the Atlanta area for all the high school teams to kind of participate in that. So obviously a big stage for him. And when you play like that on a big stage, that's nothing but good things for Missouri. And you mentioned that. I mean, you expect performances like that from a top 100 guy. And, he had a couple of turnovers, but, I mean, he threw the ball 44 times. So, I mean, they've got a high-powered offense. I think he showed off, everything he could really show off, in terms of arm strength and accuracy. Also wheels, too. I think he had a 24-yard touchdown run in that game as well. So, very mobile, very versatile. And it's good to see that. I mean, obviously, he's going to play football and baseball at Missouri. So, and it also helps too when you have like the number 1 wide receiver in the nation to throw to.
Number 1 player in the nation, I think. Yeah, Travis Hunter. A lot of people think he's going to be a defensive back, and there was a big debate on our message board. Well, they were giving Hunter too much credit and Horn not. Like, look, guys, this is what football is. It takes a guy to throw the ball, and it takes a guy to catch the ball. And if both those guys don't do their job, the job doesn't get done. And by the way, it takes a line to give them time to do that. I'll say this. It's going to confuse the hell out of me if Sam Horn wants to be number 21 in college. Like, I don't know if that's legal, but that's going to be weird.
Yeah, I don't know what the significance if number 21 is like important to him, but yeah, that'd be interesting to see. I mean, I think the last time we had a 21 was like Heath Schuler. Wasn't he number 21 back in the day?
Was he as a quarterback? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. That's the first time I've thought of Heath Schuler in many, many, many years. So I couldn't have told you what number he was, but yeah.
I think he was 21 in college. So
there you
that's
go.
The last 21 quarterback I can remember in college or NFL.
Yeah, no question. I know you can't do it in the NFL. You probably can in college.
Yeah.
All right, so appreciate you guys hanging with us, and we do want to get to your questions here. We got 10, 15 minutes left in this show. And Colby wants to know, besides Luther Burden, who could be the next player added to the 22 class? And I want to be clear, I don't know if Colby is saying we already think Burden is the next player. We don't know Luther Burden's timetable. It could happen this week, and it could happen in December, and he could end up, somewhere else. We don't know for sure yet. But he's saying we know about that one. That one's been kind of publicized. I mean, I don't know, Sean. There's nobody else to me that I know of that I'm thinking, hey, this one seems like it could happen at any time.
Right. The one I can think of off the top of my head, and hearing that question is somebody Mitchell's going to go see this weekend, Dominic Orange. Now, the tide's kind of turned there. I mean, he had a great workout with Missouri. Seems like he's moved up their board. Whether a commitment comes soon, I know he's going to take a couple of officials. I'm assuming Missouri. I don't know if Missouri is going to be one of those, but obviously he's already very familiar with the program. So, I mean, he's kind of one I can think of that might be like the next one to commit, if Missouri keeps pressing. So, but other than that, I mean, I can't think of anybody that's like going to, maybe make an announcement anytime soon or anything like that.
Yeah, well, and I know the questions about the 22 class, but I actually wouldn't be shocked if Missouri's next commitment is like a really early 2023 kid. If it's like a Logan Reichert just says, hey, I just want this done. Like, I know what I want to do, and I want this done, whether it's Reichert or some other in-state kid. I could see one of those kids really kind of jumping ahead of some of the because now we're at the point with the 2022 guys where most of them that aren't committed probably aren't committed because they want to take some visits and do some things like that. I mean, August is generally not a very busy time for commitments. Bryant was asking about Dominique Orange too, and tell me if I'm misreading this situation. It is certainly possible that I'm misreading this just because he's a kid that doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't seem to tweet a lot. So there could be a lot going on in his recruitment that we don't know about. But I also wonder if maybe he's a kid that his name came out really early and, maybe some of these big-time schools, he built up this offer list early, but the recruitment seems to have slowed down a little bit and be more of like a Missouri, Iowa State, kind of a regional recruitment than it would be a national recruitment. Is that how you look at it?
Yeah, I kind of get that impression too. And if you kind of look at, the very few interviews he's done recently, I mean, it's kind of been regional schools he's mentioned, in terms of visiting too. So I don't know if those bigger schools have kind of backed off, and maybe he's a guy that just wants to stay a little bit local too and have a chance for his family to go watch him play whenever they can. So, which, I mean, in a situation like that, obviously bodes well for Missouri. That workout was pretty big. We kind of talked about this on last week's show. We mentioned it on the board multiple times, but, I don't think he was very high on Missouri's board before he came in and worked out in July. And that July workout's really kind of accelerated his stock up their board. So it'd be interesting to kind of pay attention to that moving forward.
Well, and one thing we haven't talked a lot about, like Missouri's success here recently, especially with local kids, you mentioned the regional recruitment. Kansas is very poor at football right now. Illinois is pretty poor at football. Nebraska is as bad as it's been in a long time. Kansas State is nothing special. So really, when you're talking the regional schools, it's kind of Iowa and Iowa State. And then, obviously, you start to deal with the Oklahoma schools a little bit, but Arkansas hadn't been all that good either. So the schools that immediately surround Missouri, like, they're almost all, outside of the schools in Iowa and Oklahoma, pretty much down. And so I think that's probably a contributing factor because a lot of these kids, hey, they might go a state or two away, but a lot of them don't want to go 900 miles away, 1,500 miles away to play college football. So a lot of coaches talk about this 300 to 500 mile radius. Well, if you go a 300 to 500 mile radius from Columbia, I mean, outside of Oklahoma, Iowa, and Iowa State, there's just not a lot that's attractive right now.
Yeah, I agree. You look at you talk about trajectory of the programs and everything like that. Yeah, I mean, Missouri's a good option when you're talking about regional options for a guy that's in Kansas City. So, like I said, bodes well. And obviously, I kind of go back and we're talking about Luther Burden. You're possibly going to watch this game. That was kind of a common theme with Marquis and Isaac talking to them over the weekend. They are all in on trying to recruit Luther Burden. Yeah. So it's kind of an all-in process for the in-state kids to try to get him in the class now that he's decommitted.
No question. Keegan, helping out our research a little bit, says Shea Patterson was number 20 at Ole Miss, and Jared Lorenzen, the hefty lefty, was number 20 at Kentucky. So
yeah, I should have known that. He was actually 22, I believe.
22,
so,
I think you're right. Yeah. So there you go. I mean, we're not here just to educate you on recruiting. We're here to educate you on all the meaningful college football things.
Quarterbacks of 20-plus numbers.
Right, that happen in college football. So, I don't know, Sean. I think we've more or less kind of caught people up on what we know right now. We're gonna definitely make a concerted effort here over the season to see as many of the kids that are currently committed to Missouri as we can. I know you're gonna go to a few different games. Now, look, we're probably not going to El Paso, right, to see Tavoris Jones. I looked up. I mean, here was the fun fact I learned this week. The drive from Columbia to Houston is only an hour longer than the drive from Houston to El Paso. So
nice.
There's some geography for you.
Look, if you get some sponsorships, you can get like one of those Sprinter vans and just put Power Mizzou. Put Power Mizzou World Tour on it, and we'll just get in there. We'll sleep in like truck stops overnight and save money.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, man. That sounds horrible. If you want to do it, cool. If we can get if we get the Columbia El Paso Hyperloop going, I'll hop on that. So.
it's a very terrible idea. That's why I mentioned it, because I'm not going to do it. So.
Good deal. All right. Well, Sean, appreciate you jumping on, man. I don't know. Did we miss anything you got to hit here at the end?
No, we were just talking about Sam Horn. We were talking about this before we came on air. I'll eventually get down and watch a Sam Horn game and cover that in the next probably couple weeks or so. So stay tuned to that. So we'll get down there. Obviously, that's a big time commitment for Missouri, and obviously had a huge game. So we'll get down there and definitely profile him at some point in the next couple weeks.
All right. Well, good deal, Sean. We'll let you go, man. I know we both got things going on later this morning, so we will catch up with you later on. Thanks, bud.
All right. Thanks, Gabe.
All right, thanks to Sean Williams for joining me and kind of catching all you guys up. A lot of this stuff, look, has been on the message board. It's been on the site. We've got a video interview with Isaac Thompson up there right now. Had one over the weekend with Marquis Gracial. We'll have a story on Ryan Wingo coming up. We're hitting those games on Friday night that we mentioned. But this is just kind of another format to deliver the news to you guys. And once again, it's made possible by Brandon Barnes, your local mortgage banker at USA Mortgage. You can hit him by email, bbarnes@usa-mortgage.com, online at showmemortgage.com. Got a couple phone numbers there. You can hit up Brandon Barnes on Power Mizzou's message boards. There's all kinds of ways to get in touch with him. So we certainly encourage you to do that for any of your mortgage needs. For your recruiting needs, hey, you just hit powermizzou.com. So we'll talk to you guys there, and we will be back tomorrow. Mitchell Forty's joining me for the 573 report. We'll have some practice availability, interviewing Eli Drinkwitz later today, maybe some players. So ought to have some fresh information for you guys there. We'll talk to you tomorrow.